Hey there, in this video I thought I would talk about this German Shepherd here. I've had her now for 4 weeks and she is going to be going home tomorrow. And I've made a ton of progress with her. When she first got here, she was super leash reactive toward myself and my wife, and we couldn't even touch her when they dropped her off. And so we had to even have the owners put her in the kennel for us. And I think I have a clip that I can show you what she was like when she first got dropped off, and I'll go ahead and show that to you now. So as you can see from the clip, she was really basically just afraid of us, and that was causing her to be highly reactive on the leash when her owners would take her out and walk her around the neighborhood. And what happens with these type of dogs is they learn that when they're walking with their owner, as long as if they notice someone's going to approach them, if they bark and blow up, then obviously no one's going to continue to move toward the dog. They're always going to back away. So this reinforces this type of behavior from the dog's point of view, and it's almost a snowball effect. The dog at some point learns that they can bark a little or growl and someone moves away from the dog. And so the dog thinks, well, this is a really good strategy for me to keep people away. Next thing you know, after several weeks of practicing this, the dog is just blowing up at everybody that the dog comes in contact with, because the dog learns that, well, this is keeping me safe. It's keeping people from approaching me. And so when you have dogs like this, it can be really difficult to take them out in public because, one, it's embarrassing. Two, when the dog does bark, the dog is getting what they want because it's keeping people away. So when you're dealing with a dog that's leash reactive because they are afraid of people, it can be difficult because it's really tough to try to socialize the dog and teach and show them what they need, how they need to behave, and show them that they can still remain safe without barking and lunging at people. So we brought the dog in, and it took about, I think, around 10 days before I could even touch her. And what I generally do with a dog like this that's dropped off, I don't pay any attention to them. So I feed them, I don't make eye contact with them, I just show them that I'm not going to approach you until you are ready to be approached. So I always wait for the dog to come to me and smell me and sniff me, and then show signs that they want to be touched by me. Now with my wife, it took about 4 or 5 days. And that's generally the case with a lot of dogs that are fearful. They tend to warm up to women usually before they do men. But she did finally start to warm up to me. Once around day 10, then I started to slowly kind of work her through some various obedience cues like sit and place, teaching her how to go to the dog bed, teaching her to come to me. And I went really slow, not putting any pressure on her. I was doing a lot of positive reinforcement with throwing out a lot of food. As she started to build her trust up with me, then I started to take her out on walking her. And what I would do is I showed her that I want you to walk at my side in a very controlled manner. And right now I'm using a pinch collar with her so that I have a lot of control.
Good girl. Yeah, what a good girl you are.
So what I was saying is that I put her on a prong collar when I'm out on walking her, while I'm walking her out on leash, so that I have a lot of control with her, and the owner is going to be able to have a lot of control. Because it's really important that the dog isn't out in front scanning. I really want to teach the dog to walk at my side and follow my lead. So with a dog like her, when I'm out, I've been taking her out several times this past week, my wife and I, and just moving her on the outskirts at first, and then slowly moving her in through crowds of people. And it's really important that when we're first teaching a dog how to, or show the dog that they don't need to react this way, we teach them to walk right at our side, and we weave in and out. We don't stop and talk to anyone. We don't make it clear if I see someone that wants to approach the dog, I just ignore them and I keep moving. Because I want to show her that when she's with me, she's going to remain safe and people are not going to approach her. And I think we took her out this morning and I think she barked at one person and she was around several people. But that's a whole lot of improvement versus when she was first dropped off and the first time we took her out, she was scanning, looking at anybody within 20, 30 yards of her as she was reacting. So what we did was we just moved her on the outskirts, slowly moved her in, keeping her at our side, and then we were feeding often throughout the whole process. So we may walk her a little bit and then stop, feed. So we want to show her that when she's out in public, that it's going to be a good situation for her, but at the same time, we want to teach her to follow our lead. Now, along with that, like I said before, I think that running the dog through several training cues to really help teach them to build that bond with you is really crucial when you're trying to get to know the dog. Good girl. As you can see here, I mean, I can touch her. She's rolling over on her back with me. She's really comfortable with me now, which a few weeks ago, no way is this happening. So if you have this dog, a dog that is barking at people while they're on leash, especially, that is fearful of people, it's really important that you do several things. One, you want to make sure that people are not approaching you and petting your dog. So if someone walks up, you see someone approaching you, you really just need to, you may say something, try to polite, my dog is shy, and just keep moving off especially in the initial stages. Because if the dog starts to react toward every person, then the dog winds up learning that they're going to control the situation because you can't, right? So if the dog is scared when people approach and they learn that barking keeps people away, well, that reinforces the barking. Okay, so it's really important when you start taking a dog out in public that you're just moving around these people. So the dog learns, okay, as long as I follow them and nothing bad happens, they learn that they can move around out in public and not have to react. All right, so it's really important that you advocate for your dog in these situations. And then you really want to be teaching your dog a skill set. And when I say the skill set, that means teaching your dog, here we go. Sit. Good. Down. Good. Place. What a good girl you are. Good. And I throw a lot of food, a lot of positive reinforcement while I'm training the dog. I want the dog to learn to really enjoy working with me. And I think that's really important as well. Good. What a good girl. Yes, that was very good. Now, when you have people coming over to your house and you have a dog like this can be even more difficult, especially with dogs like German Shepherds who are going to be naturally territorial, right? So someone comes over to the house, dog starts alert barking immediately, and then when the person comes in, now they're afraid also. So it creates this perfect storm of a situation because the dog is usually in an enclosed area in the house. They want the person to leave, so they're barking and carrying on, even though it's a guest that you've invited into your home. So it can be really difficult to teach the dog how you want them to respond. So when you're first dealing with those situations in the early stages, I usually recommend putting the dog in another room or in a crate, letting your guests come in, and then you bring the dog out. That way, the dog isn't seeing that person walk through that threshold of the house or walking in through that front door, because that's always going to be a trigger, especially within a mature German Shepherd. So initially it's best to just put the dog away and then bring the dog in once your guests have settled. Now, as you start working your way through training and working your way through some of these issues, then you may bring the dog in and put the dog on a dog bed and teach them how to stay here as you bring guests into your home, and then you would be rewarding heavily, but at the same time making your dog stay on the dog bed. So if the dog breaks the stay, you're going to be putting the dog back on the bed, and then you're going to be feeding often. But it's really important that you show the dog that you got to stay here, and if you stay here, I'm not going to allow guests to approach you. And I know that's easier said than done, because everybody thinks that they are good with dogs and they always want to try to befriend your dog. So if they see a dog that is scared of them, it's almost like it hurts their ego, and they take offense to that. And you'll see people try to start getting low and holding their hand out, and really that just makes the situation worse. When it's best if the person just ignores them. So you have to do a lot of coaching with your guest, relative, to show them, look, just ignore my dog. But at the same time, it's really important that you're not allowing your dog to dictate the situation. You don't want your dog rushing and barking at people, because that's just going to continue. If you allow your dog to do that, it's not going to stop. It's really important that you have to interrupt that behavior inside the home. So when you're dealing with these fearful dogs, in a boarding train scenario, what I have to do is I have to get the dog used to me first before I can start training. If you have a personal dog that is like this, and it's causing you issues when people are coming over or when you're out in public, the first thing to do is to show your dog that they are safe as long as they are with you, and you will advocate for them and not let people approach. And that's really important. In these situations, the dog needs to learn that following your direction is going to keep them safe. And then, will the dog ever be able to accept people coming up and touching them out in public? Who knows? That depends on the dog. Some dogs, when you have dogs like this, you can't necessarily just make them all of a sudden friendly toward everybody. But what you can do is you can work on teaching your dog that they don't have to blow up and cause a huge reactivity display every time they see somebody. And that should be the first goal, is to be able to take your dog out in public and then not react. And you do that by showing your dog, follow my direction, walk with me, nothing bad is going to happen to you, good things are going to happen. So you're going to keep your dog under control, you're going to provide good things like food and treats, and then you're going to go home. And the dog needs to learn to slowly build their confidence that way, and then you're able to get closer and closer to people. And there's really no reason for people to come up and touch your dog anyway out in public, okay? So that shouldn't necessarily be a goal. But you do want to be able to make your dog's world bigger. You want them to not have to go out in public and get really nervous and fearful all the time. So you may have to go really slow with this. But you can make a lot of improvement, but you can't necessarily completely fix the problem with some of these dogs. A lot of owners, when they have dogs like this, they call me or they bring the dog to me and they want to know why. Why is my dog like this? And I don't always know. And why is really not the most important thing, because even if you knew the why, you still got to work on resolving the issue, or at least managing the issue. It's usually genetic, I think. A lot of times, maybe with this dog, it could have been either some dog in her line was really fearful of people, and so it got passed on. It could be malnutrition in the womb, or at that 1 to 8 week period. Could have something to do with that. Could be lack of socialization with some dogs, even though I know with this dog that wasn't an issue. The owner was taking her out often. So, or it can be a combination of any of those factors. So it's really difficult sometimes to pinpoint the why, but even if you do know why your dog is like this, you still have to deal with the dog that's in front of you. So try to implement some of these tips in this video. If you have a dog that's fearful with people, it's not something that's a quick fix. It's a journey, but you can make a lot of progress if you put in the work. All right, guys, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in another one. Goodbye.